on this computer. Beautiful. And I want to make sure that you are co-host. I'm just going to add you as a co-host. And of course, as people jump in that way, you've still got control of the screen as well.
Cool.
Done. It's done. Hopefully people will find us. I did share it over the weekend a couple of times, and
We can share it after too.
yeah. And thank you for allowing adjustment. I know we adjusted for you and then we adjusted for me. I was like, oh, we're both feeling it. It's good. Perfect timing today. Ah. And so I'd love to, firstly, let's start. So anyone that's jumping on later, so they can come back and rewatch this. So I'm excited today to share with Crystal because I feel like we speak similar languages but offer different modalities. Again, you say simple, I say easy. We're just saying this to ourselves, right? We work in high frequency, bringing insights and knowledge and healing and gifts and, helping people shift into higher levels of consciousness and to activate their nervous system in a stabilized and more grounded way so that they can actually achieve better things in their lives on multiple different levels, right? And I know Crystal shares so many amazing modalities. If you guys don't know who I am, I'm Kelli from Energetically Inspired. So I've been in the industry for over 13 years and I've worked with thousands of people sharing lots of different insights and different skills and modalities. And I kind of felt like it's all kind of come together into this beautiful masterpiece more recently. It's like each time it leveled me up so that I could actually help with this great awakening that I feel is happening now in the collective. And yes, I'm super honored to be sharing space with beautiful people like Crystal, where we can come together and create some magic for all of you guys. And I'll let Crystal introduce herself and introduce what she does, because I work in energy and transformational coach. At the moment, I'm working a lot more with entrepreneurs or soul entrepreneurs and helping them step into their magic and being able to deliver it in a way that they're actually aligned vibrationally, so there's more magnetics and helping more people, because I believe that everyone deserves happiness and joy and abundance and flow and a lot more ease. Life's never easy, but more ease within their life. And so that's sort of the magic that I'm bringing forward, as well as working one-on-one with a lot of clients as well. So Crystal, would you love to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you share?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity and also creating this space for people to, come into a different perspective if that's something that they're here to receive, if that's something their soul's here to receive. So I'm Crystal Tiehen with Crystalline Your Journey, and I am a trauma-informed breathwork facilitator and energy healer. So through the better part of a decade that I have been embracing my intuitive gifts, my spiritual skill sets, I've really come into this message, this passion around energy healing, really needing to be more trauma informed. And so this is the inspiration that I bring the healing arts is trauma informed energy healing. So I offer advanced tools, skill sets, practices, modalities, and treatments for those that need a more advanced level of mentorship and support along their journey. So if you've done all the processing that you can do and you are still not getting where you want to get to, that is where I come in. And I offer many different pathways. I offer single soul sessions. I offer embodiment activation gateway. I offer intensive VIP weekends. It just really depends on if you're looking for an initiation or where you're at. And we track that and customize an offer that will get you to that next step that you're looking for, that next set of awareness, if you will.
Mm, I love that. I love that because I know in healing, most people that are seeking healing, there's a lot of trauma. I had a lot of PTSD, right? So I'm very equipped in the space as well. And it's quite easy to open this doorway and allow all this stuff to be unloaded, and people not having their nervous system, not having the ability to actually hold them through that, right? And so it's really important for us to really understand how important this kind of work is, and the nervous system being grounded and more stabilized, and having tools to for people to work through those things. And you're right, a lot of people are stuck at a level where they're, and it's not one path fits all. And that's why when I studied so many modalities like you, it's not, people come in and it's like, do you have a set, routine? And I do have certain things that I will generally offer consistently, like looking at people's nervous system, but it's not one cookie cutter for everybody, right? Everyone's different levels of energy work or awareness or consciousness, or and I feel like you work with a lot of people that are already probably been in the space, as you said, that have been trying so many things, and they might have awareness but just not these other tools to work with it. So yeah, that's really, really beautiful that we offer such a wide thing, and feeling into the space as to energetically what people need. Is there something particular that you feel is really, really potent? Maybe one thing, like I said, for me, it's, I always reset people's nervous system to make sure that they're grounded as well. But is there something that you quite consistently find that is a really powerful tool that you would use?
Absolutely. So breath work is something that I believe is a way to attune to your home frequency. So not just in theory, but actually cultivate a felt sense of it. And I offer a signature modality called devotion to breath. And so
Mm,
the intention is attunement. And so it's breath work to be able to connect you more into your body, so drop you more into your body, not so much moving you out of your body. And doing it in a trauma informed way, and being able to access the innate wisdom that allows you to hold yourself
mm,
through your journey, and really reshape, if you will, your relationship with trauma. Because if we're gonna walk an embodied path, if you're being called to walk an embodied path, you're gonna meet the edge of needing to be able to hold yourself in your own trauma. And
mm,
that is different for each level.
mhm,
And so it's really unlocking that innate ability that we have. It's not that I teach you anything. You already are doing it. It's just recognizing and imprinting your actual acknowledgement that you have that innate ability to integrate your trauma.
mm. And you say the word innate ability. What does that look like? So, like, it's not something, a terminology that I would use. So there probably is a lot of other people going, okay, what's that innate ability? I know it's like we do have that inner wisdom, and accessing that, but again, I'd let you fill in those words, what that means
Yeah,
for you.
yeah. It's moving with natural order. So it's releasing control, releasing the need to feel protected, right? Um, and because there's a lot of influences out there about like what ego is. There's the concept of what ego is, but then there's also all of these different representations of what people see ego to be. And at a very simplistic level, um, I have been shown the ego is that to which protects us from our feelings.
Mhm. Okay.
And so any time that we're having to integrate a part of ourselves or a trauma or a frozen pocket of energy, whatever it might be, um, we are going to have to feel it.
Hmm.
And as you know, our nervous system, our brain, actually, we have built pattern. We've cultivated protection mechanisms, and we've
Mhm.
built patterns around keeping ourselves from having these feelings because
Mm.
because they created so much trauma, whether it be in a past life or whether it be in this timeline or whether it be in our lineage that has been brought into this lifetime, whatever, wherever it is along the journey, it still has to be welcomed. And
Mm.
we still have to open our body to actually be able to feel it, to integrate it. And
Yeah.
so our innate ability is feeling.
Mm. Definitely. I 100%. And it's feeling the spectrum of life, it's interesting. Even just recently, I've had a lot of clients coming in and we're actually hitting a point of where it was anger or where they were irked up about some sort of situation. And it was so deep down inside, that they've just swallowed it because the feeling of, say, anger is such a suppressed energy. It's deemed as such a bad thing. And if we allow ourselves to go there, people are afraid of what will actually come up or be said, right? And it was really interesting to watch that actually. In so there was this actually, I started to see it too as this part of themselves that actually were angry, and a lot of it was linked to their inner child wanting a tantrum just to say all these things unfiltered, right? But there was this adult aspect of themselves that we've been like taught through consciousness and through society that would deem, no, you can't say that, that's inappropriate, da da da. So instead of allowing themselves, and it doesn't mean they're defined by it, doesn't make them something, but it was just this energy and these thoughts and these feelings that were actually really relevant to their situation that they just suppressed. They just needed to let it out, but their mind had just deemed that they can't do that because that makes them, whether it's immature or a bad person. And it's not that they had to say it and project it at anyone, but and I've seen this a couple of times just in the last couple of weeks. And I know years ago I sat with this energy myself of like, and allowing myself to create a safe space where I just let go and just let all of it out, right? In a safe, and I was punching the pillows and I was doing this thing and just letting this inner child part, but it was also part of my adolescence. There was part of my adult in it as well. Like it was a mix of all these things. And it was just this deep rage and, wanted to say something to a particular person who'd done a lot of hurt and had created a lot of trauma in my life. And I just let it go and go and go and go and go in a safe way. And then at the end of it, I just burst out laughing when I got to the point that there was nothing left to say anymore. And I laughed my head off because I literally was like, oh my gosh, did I just say those things? Right. And it was funny, right? But my whole body was just like so light in the moment. And it was tingling because I had loud movement and I was breath and there was sound and there was all the things that were happening in it. And I just allowed myself to let go, right? And so it was interesting because this is something that I just worked with some of my clients with just in the last week. Two different clients came in. I was like, interesting, this is a theme this week, and interesting because one of them, from years ago had done this, and suppressed this energy. And then there was this situation that was actually occurring in her life now where it was creating um, bad habits where she's not actually being able to like self-control herself, and it was affecting her self-love. And interesting, it was just the mirror of exactly what she'd experienced in this previous situation, right? And suppressing that fire energy meant that she had no power in it. She'd like suppressed the power of her own free will, and she knew she could see it, but she just couldn't understand. And I was like, oh, interesting. Where I picked up, it was linked to something quite a long time ago that was actually held still deep in her body, and she'd been putting on weight and carrying all this because it was now ready to release. But when we deem something bad and we shadow it, is what most people refer to, right? These parts of ourselves that we fragment apart from ourselves, right? Comes out and it plays a little bit in a new scenario in a slightly different way. And we just cannot see how that and this can actually collate because they're completely different scenarios, 10 or 15 years apart. And she was like, oh my goodness, you're so right. Like the energy and the whole, how they were interlinking and intertwining, and the energy just wanted to come up and be released. Your soul was ready for that. And yeah, but it was giving her a space and actually allowing her to know how to reset her nervous system as well. It's really important. Understanding how we meet those pieces of ourselves in a beautiful way. And everyone's different. Like I said, this is, you know, the previous client that had the same thing was a whole different situation, you know. Um, so yeah, so much power in this work, right? And I gather for yourself, you're very intuitive, like me. You can kind of see the I guess what the clients can't see. Is that what it is? You find the
Yeah,
pieces.
I believe that, as as empathic beings, because we're electromagnetic
Mm,
beings, um, we we are all empathic. Some of us come in more empathic than others in the sense of our sensitivity, our our sensory levels.
hmm
And so, like for me, pattern recognition is just something that came as a way to protect myself. And so that that is literally, like, it's innate in us
hmm
as empathic beings.
hmm
And it's really cultivating and coming into mastery with using that in an ethical and effective, you know uh supportive way.
hmm
um and so our empathic abilities is, I feel, kind of like the first stage, if you will. And we as empaths, if we identify as empaths, it's, for the most part, we come in as being disempowered. It's what wakes us up.
hmm
and and so really being able to mirror that for each other is such a gift. It is
hmm
such a gift. And and then and then we move into our psychic abilities, right? And the psychic energy is just energy that moves faster than the speed of light.
hmm
You can't see it, but you can sense it, right?
hmm
But the psychic realm, the quantum realm, it's of many minds. So if you're going to open up to the psychic realm, the quantum realm, the spirit realm, I've seen it over and over and over. We're not trauma informed in doing it for the most part. We have not, like, as we move into this like these different phases of consciousness, we really need to um, bring to relevancy how important it is for us to be able to ground our psychic abilities, not just use them in the quantum.
hmm
And then we move into our intuitive gifts. And it's like using your psychic abilities with intention is what allows us to cultivate our intuitive gifts. But
hmm
then using our intuitive gifts with intention is what allows us to cultivate our spiritual skill sets.
hmm
And so this is what I mean by, like, advanced, if you will. It is this devotion to intentionalizing what is innate within us.
hmm
So that is how I would respond to that.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And I love how you break it down there's it's like layers, right? It's, you know, like the empath is really the emotion. It's connecting to the emotional center because most people say, "Oh, I'm so empathic. I feel everyone's emotions," right? And and some people are much more in tune, and that can even be a trauma response in the body, like we've seen where people are hypersensitive in empathy because they're trying from a young age had to feel into everybody's field, right? To see what emotions is their dad going to come in and rage tonight, or is, you know, and you're right. Like from a young age, we have created what I was taught is like well, you're saying is the safety systems. It was the internal home system of our nervous system and even how we identify ourselves, right? So in a family dynamic, you know, we want to be liked or not abandoned, or we seek safety, right? We need a home over our head. So it's all these things that it's like little programs that, you know, unconsciously we're like, oh, that one will fit into this dynamic, and oh, that one will fit into this. And oh, so whether it's the people pleasing and all these things, that actually allow us, or hyper independence, I became the independent, not because, my mom had a lot of kids, but it also made me, as the eldest child, appreciated more because I could just go and do what I needed to do and also help her and be more self-sufficient. And, but interesting enough, as much as I had to heal parts of what that energy of not wanting to do everything on my own and not feeling like I could rely on anyone, right? And learning to actually, I can rely on the universe, I can rely on my soul, I can rely actually to open myself to ask people. The independence is also still part of my soul's identity because of, like, when we start to look at human blueprints and things like that, or human design, I'm a manifester, right? So I'm one of those like trailblazers who kind of steps in a little bit and walks a path that's people, creating the path for others to see, So interesting that, some of the things that were trauma, or not even just trauma, but pain for me in part of my life, were also meant to be who I was in this lifetime too. So it's like witnessing how those things come about, because so often I see people go, oh, I just want to get rid of that pattern. And I'm like, oh, but the more and more I've seen this, and when I work with this energy, there's like two sides to a coin, right? And when we fragment something, we lose a lot of the gifts that were meant to come with that energy, right? Because our soul knew where it was delivering us, when we came into this lifetime. And it's not about separating ourselves, but how do we integrate through that stuff? And then not allow having that awareness to actually seeing what other aspects for me, even though I was independent, I had a lot of people pleasing, as a very intuitive child. It was easy to people please and want to be liked, right? When I realized that I was the manifesting energy repels people a little bit, and I didn't know that as a child, but and also that I'd speak out, people were like, oh, hang on, that's a bit out of character for back in the 80s, right? And I realized very quickly I needed to shut that part of myself down because I wanted to be liked. And how could I adapt to reading everyone and fitting in so that people would just like me, because I didn't want to be the outcast, So my gifts created this energy around me feeling like I was a bit of an outcast, And later in life became my blessings as well, But it's seeing how we adapted to those things, because I guess a lot of us were born in times that weren't ready for us. Well, they were, but it was meant to be part of the process. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think part of the process is a really good way of putting it. And like for me, this wasn't a gradual, like being activated to my empathic abilities and my psychic, abilities and my intuitive gifts. Like it was not gradual for me. Like it was abrupt. And I
Mm,
had no idea how to manage it, how to harness it, it doesn't come with a manual. Like I had coaching trauma because my intuitive gifts were activated when I was being mentored, and there was just a lot of um personal karmic uh energy that had to be experienced by my soul in order for it to evolve.
mm,
And so I have had to go into a very, very deep healing. And
mm,
honestly, I feel I got stuck in a healing loop. So I help people get out of healing loops now
mm,
to actually be able to step out of their healing loop, see the healing loop, and
mm,
be able to make a conscious choice as to if they're going to stay in that healing loop or not.
mm.
So because if we're not integrating, we're just going to create the same energetic signature. Just it's just going to look different.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
so yeah, so it's like empathically we have created these protectors, right? On an unconscious level. So we didn't do it consciously. So
Mm,
we did it disassociated from our body.
mm-hmm,
And that's the wild flipping thing.
mm-hmm,
That's how powerful our mind is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't even need to be it doesn't even need to be connected to the body to survive.
Mhm.
Like how wild is that?
It's crazy, right? It's like two separate
It's
entities, right?
crazy to think about. It really is.
Yeah.
And like and to witness myself in my reflection of my journey and the different phases that I have gone through, like I call them my zombie days, because up until
Mm.
about my early 30s, I was I was disassociated. And I I definitely was not creating life through a connection. I was just on I was just using my patterns
Mhm.
and my survival patterns. And but it really blew up. And I had a near death experience. I was in a 10-year abusive relationship. My life almost got taken at the hands of that man
Mm.
because of that abusive relationship. I felt lost like I had never felt lost before. I was taken advantage of with my spiritual and intuitive gifts, like just one karmic thing right after the other. And so I was highly traumatized in my adult years. And I'm like, well, hell, that was nothing. Like my childhood was nothing compared to what my spiritual awakening was.
Mhm.
And
Funny
I
because
just
mine was
feel
the
like
same.
I feel like the spiritual awakening is so much more traumatizing than like childhood. I genuinely do not want to disregard anyone's childhood and
Mm.
traumas that they've been through. I have humor to it. I have this playfulness to it, because it we can't let it be so heavy.
Mm.
And so I just want to bring that to relevancy, that
Mm.
I have I have really allowed myself to hold myself in
Mm.
a lot of what I've been through.
Mm. I
And
um
I have tons of gratitude for it.
I
So,
honor you because I know the feeling. Like, it was through my divorce, there was a lot of emotional, psychological, manipulative, a lot of stuff happened. And I had two little kids as well, very young. My youngest was not long born before it all really blew up. And it went on for years, even knowing I wasn't, had tried to remove myself. And even knowing I was always intuitive as a kid, like I said, I'd shut it down, and then all of a sudden this activation and this, and I call it's what most people call the dark night of the soul, right? It's the initiation of our soul to start to come forward and to bring forward our gifts that most of us have allowed to lay dormant or wasn't aware. Like, we don't have rituals in our society that, like, say, some of the more spiritual stuff have these rituals that say you're now at this age and we're going, you're ready to awaken into these pieces. We just don't have that. And for a lot of us, it's, the dark night of the soul is like the shredding of all the things that are unaligned, or even things that sometimes, like, that are actually holding us back, and that we're not going to allow ourselves to move forward if we keep holding on to those situations or those that environment. And yeah, it shredded my whole reality. Like, it was literally looking back, people were like, oh, before that they thought I had created this beautiful life, and this big house with this beautiful land, and was married, and I'd done had the kids, and it was the white picket fence, the fairy tale. And inside I was so alone. And then when it all happened for other reasons, it was part of my karmic lesson and part of my initiation as well. So super blessed for it all. But, trying to hold myself through that with two little kids was huge, and feeling alone because there was a lot of triangulation and, like, narcissistic behaviors that came in. So a lot of people, as I was going through my awakening, fell away. They just didn't get it. And it was too much for them to even handle. It's like people that don't understand what it's like to, one, be abused, or to go through such deep shredding of your reality and have your whole world feel like it's falling apart in front of you. and they're not ready to confront their own stuff, they're definitely not going to be able to hold space for you through the space. So, a lot of people that go through this spiritual awakening, it's hard. We're not taught tools, and, as much as I would listen to my intuition and had to learn to trust that again, right? I hadn't trusted it for years. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust the universe to guide me into a space, that I was like, I'm held and protected. I was like, no, I don't feel protected. I feel like, at that point in time. And so learning, that's where I find like the nervous system regulation was so massive, to witness and go, oh, hang on, why is my nervous system triggering? Because I don't see anything in my environment that's actually making me feel unsafe. And I realized how just my phone beeping was setting my nervous system off, because there had been inappropriate messages through that, or sound of a particular car would drive past and my nervous system was gone again. It was and most people are so hyperactive that, but because I've started to become aware of some of the sensations in my body as these things would occur, and it was almost like I could feel the fire move up my spine, and then this energy of like my head would just be so loud. I'd be like, but I'd have to sit there, and it took me a little while to unpack what is happening, why. Like I feel like, I created a safe home, but my nervous system's like ding ding ding. And trying to mother two children, young kids, it's huge, right? And I kept thinking to myself, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree if I don't get myself under control, the impact of these two beautiful little souls. But also when my nervous system was so hyperactive in that stage, I wasn't present. My head was so noisy, right? Even when they come in and I'm like, I can't handle the noise of the kids because my head was loud, right? It was just like I wanted to escape at times. And, just doing the simplest of tasks of like cooking dinner would take me so much longer because I couldn't be present with it. I was just in my head thinking about all this stuff that, yeah. And like I say to people, when you're in it, you really don't. And then, of course, I had all these other things that are going on spiritually, energetically, and again, as my gifts, like I'm a claircognizant more so, but which is knowing, like I get clear knowing energy. I then got clairsentience, and then it was like I'd feel pain in my body, and I'd be like, "What is this?" And so at first, I thought it was mine. Then I realized that as I was connecting to other people, it was actually theirs. I could pinpoint certain things, and I was like, "Oh, that's right there in their body." But no, there's no manual to say, or um, no voice in my head was saying, hey, this is not your energy. You're just being awakened to a new level of, so a lot of the time I was like trying to work through what's this stiff energy in my body that actually I just had to realize, is this mine? Is this not? If it's not mine, like let it go, like there's, there's no guide. And that's why with people like yourself who've had to hold themselves, giving them those simple tools, that an ability to reflect and feel and connect, and the emotional body and the layers, and working out what layer and what stage you're in. Because when you're saying about the looping, like I know in that dark night of the soul, there's like 6 stages, and I was looping in that 3 to 4, because it's the breakdown of the old and moving into the new. And I just was kind of going in and out of this cycle. And then I realized again, I was like constantly saying, I'm just healing. And I was like, oh, I'm actually creating an intention that I'm forever healing. If we look at just the word healing, which is, it's beautiful, but it's that if we have to heal like a wound, it's an open wound, it's right. And so I said to people, actually, like, let's start to look at it from the space of, I'm evolving, I'm expanding in my awareness, so there is pieces that, yes, we need to heal, but if we keep creating intention in that energy, we're just going to keep allowing this ever going healing cycle of like, oh, here's another healing thing, and here's another healing thing, and oh, hang on, I still haven't healed from that past trauma, and I still haven't, and I see so many clients come in saying, yeah, I'm healing and healing and healing and healing, and I'm like, okay, we've got to get you out of the healing cycle, right? Like, actually, because you can evolve past this and integrate, and there'll be a new layer and a new bit, that'll come through later, but you can move through it faster with just an awareness, yeah, and an intention and tools that are simple.
Yeah. And it's interesting because healing doesn't happen in the past. It doesn't happen in the future. It happens in the present.
Hmm.
And but the mind cannot conceptualize this.
Hmm.
So that's why we have to bring the body online, is because the body is so I think I shared this with you. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. But it is a tool that I offer. It's a simplistic tool. Um, and it's not something that you don't already know. It's just bringing relevancy to the simplicity of it. But there's 5 channels that make up our being,
Hmm.
who we are as a whole. And it's energetic, emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual.
Hmm.
And out of those 5 channels, which one can you not take out of the present moment?
Oh, well, energetics. You're always energetic, I would think. Yeah. But this is the
It's
now and the
it's
only moment.
yeah, it's the physical.
Yeah.
Like you
Ah,
can't
yeah.
take
Okay.
the body out of the present moment.
Yeah.
It's the physical vessel
Hmm.
of physical form that energy is expressing through. You
Hmm.
can't take the body out of the physical or out of the present moment. So the simplicity is to feel the energy through the body,
Yeah.
access the innate wisdom through the body, open up to the intuition through the body,
Hmm.
let ourselves reveal through the body,
Hmm.
not understand. Because if we just understand it, then we are limiting ourselves to what we know.
Hmm.
And that's why our cells have wisdom in them,
Hmm.
as we all know. But how do we access it?
Hmm. Mm. Yeah. I love
And
that. Yeah. And
that's the work.
yeah.
That embodiment is that's why we bring the body online.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And no, you're true, right? Because I guess there's that space of the body's always there, but we're disconnected from it. But we can't feel our energy if we're not in the body. We can't feel our emotions if we're not in our body, right? It's all just a staying, as like we said, that separate entity of our heads just being cognitive all the time, right? So yeah, no, that's very, very, very true. And I love that, right? So it's embodiment is the biggest piece, right? And it's a lot of what a lot of somatic people work with, right? Is bringing us back into our body to be present, right? To feel the sun on our skin, to feel the air, to actually feel alive in our bodies again. Because I know for years there, and I say this all the time to a lot of people, is I wasn't able to feel all those simple things, right? That actually make my body feel alive, right? When I breathe and I start to breathe in intention to connect to the energy, I can feel that tingling through the body. I can go out and walk in the sun and just feel that. For years there, I was just like shut off to all of those things, and if we're so heavy in density and disconnected from our body, but just in this trauma response, we just feel heaviness. Whereas a lot of the beautiful things in life are actually this light vibration. It's expansive, but it's a lighter sensation. So it can take a little while for people to actually recognize that's what life is like about, is this beautiful ability to be present with everything in our environment and feel it. um yeah.
Yeah, there's this fundamental shift that is anchored in the intention of what I embody, for my soul's path and experience, but also what vibrates outwardly into my work. And that fundamental shift is we do not respond to our environment. Our environment responds to our vibration.
Hmm.
And this is not something the mind can conceptualize. This is a felt sense.
Hmm.
And it's also a responsibility.
Hmm.
And it helps cultivate devotion and self-autonomy
Hmm.
and being secure within ourselves, because we're not responding to our environment. Our environment's responding to us. So
Hmm.
if somebody is projecting upon us and that's how we're receiving it, it's because that's what we're vibrating. But if
Mm-hmm.
somebody is projecting upon us, we're not receiving it as a projection. We're just receiving it as that person expressing themselves. That's different because
Mm-hmm.
we have the ability to be able to discern. And so the energy doesn't affect us in a triggering way.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah, quantum physics.
It's fundamental, and it's it's what allows us to open our hearts.
Mm,
That's what wants to come through. Because I mean, my heart has not always been open, but like I have had to choose it over and over and over and over
mhm,
and over, and I still choose it over and over and over and over. But as you say, it gets easier. As I say, it gets simple. So like but you have to choose it over and over and over. It's repetition. The
mhm,
body learns through repetition. The
mhm,
nervous system learns through experience. So if you're choosing it over and over and over through discernment, you're going you're going to be able to retrain your nervous system
mhm.
to keep its heart
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful thing to remind people. I think it's a big thing I talk about all the time with our environment, as you said, is actually a mirror of our own energy, and people just don't get that. You know, that everything's energy. It's like, hang on, I'm sitting on a chair. How do you say this is just energy? And it's not something that it's translogical, so it's not logical to our minds, right? And it still baffles my mind sometimes, and I just giggle because
open.
it's proven in science, right? And the witnessing effects and all the things, right? But we're just never taught this. I sit there and think, oh my gosh, if we were taught some of these things when we were young, that our energy and that we actually are creating this environment and attracting the things into our field and all the stuff through our own energy, how much people could absolutely radically change their lives. And that's kind of something I work with a lot of people, is how do we actually start to create the reality that's aligned to our values, to happiness, to purpose and passion and all the juicy things that life has to offer, right? um and you're right, like consistency is massive. One, it's got the neuron pathways, so it's like wiring and firing those neuron pathways. So yes, so there is a part of that, so that it can become a little bit more unconscious. So for me, when I say it becomes easier, it's like at first we have to work at doing it. It's like when we had to learn how to tie our shoelaces, and now it just happens, right? I can do that without thinking about it anymore. And so it becomes this little bit of an unconscious thing, but the body becomes cellular memory, right? And that's like same thing, how our body holds on to the trauma and all these things. It wants to let it go, but it's cellular memory to let those things shift within our reality. So in the beginning we do, and I think that's probably where I see most people struggle the most. Is you can give them simple tools, but because we are creatures of habit, and we can become so in our patterns where we get up and we just do the things through the day, instead of making time or and adding. That's why simplicity is great, right? Things that are easy that we can integrate into our everyday life, so that we can actually start to form these new, I guess, patterns and behaviors and experiences that our body receives, right? um, and that's, like I said, most people want a magic wand and say, okay, just erase all these things. And I'm like, it's not that easy. I can move the energy and shift what's in your body, but your mind, your subconscious is going to try and call that back. You're going to still receive thoughts, which then you define by, or, we're so built in that's our mind, right? The nervous system is built in these patterns. And it's only through presence that we can actually catch that and continue to shift that, going, oh, hang on, I'm doing that thing. I'm going to choose this, right? I keep choosing, like you said, you kept choosing your heart. I kept choosing that I wanted to feel presence and I wanted to be happy for my children. I kept choosing that I wanted a better life for us. I kept being consistent. These were things that mattered to me. I was like, actually, I want a great life. I want my children to I still want to be present with them. I don't want to work 9 to 5. I want to have experiences and travel. I believe within my being that all of this is possible. Like it was an inner feeling that I kind of was like, this has got to be true, right? Before I even knew that our energy creates our reality, I had to there was part of my mind going still calling bluff on a lot of it, right? And then it'd appear and I'd be like, wow, like eventually it was actually proving it to my logical mind, showing it again and again and again. And like I was like, oh, universe or soul or whatever you are doing and helping me to prove to my own mind and nervous system that this feeling that or intuitive or whatever we want to call it, so many people call it so many different things, but it could just even saying that I believe is going to be better for me, that was just a driving force that my children, I was like, my children need more, a better mom, a happier environment. I want them to have experiences. I want them to have a mom that's going to turn up for them, for their sports, like I did last week when we had to cancel last minute because we had a which are beautiful. Thank you anyway, because we were supposed to go live last week, and then 2 days out, I got notification that my son was doing cross country, and last year he got first place. This time he got second place, but he's just changed schools, and it's one of my biggest priorities is being there to cheer them on, to be there, especially in a new school where it's and he was excited, and I was like, I've got to be there. That's important as much as showing up for you guys is important too. It's like actually my babies, it was always what was one of my leverage, I called it, or driving force to being and doing what I do today and helping so many other people realize this is possible, right? Like you've gone through your experience and it's through getting to where you are and being very embodied and very wise and being able to really explain things in a way that's deliverable and understandable and sharing this insight so people don't feel alone and know that there is help out there and it doesn't have to be completely hard. It's not easy. But it gets easier with the right tools, right? So, it's not a magic wand that, one day we just clicked our fingers and you're in this position and I'm here and we created this epic life that we're helping people. Like it was a choice and a consistent to keep going and wanting uh, you know, something that fulfills us. And what you do, I can see because you're passionate and wise, and you're transforming lives, as well. But you can feel it that you're passionate about what you do as well as what I am. Right? It's a beautiful reward to see that we can help people not struggle or suffer as long as you and me probably had to, because um not having the right support systems around us, um
We were the ones coding it, and here's the thing: we were the channels that were coding this, because a perspective to consider is the Earth, this planet, is rising in consciousness. So it is integrating parts of itself
mm,
as a planet. And this is why we're seeing so much chaos. This is why, because the electromagnetic waves of the Earth's consciousness rising is actually affecting our vibrations on an energetic level, because we are electromagnetic beings that are made of the Earth's material.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, 100%.
We're all one. And so, a perspective to consider is that this isn't going away, people.
Mm,
This is, we are being called forth to this. We're not
mm-hmm,
being called out. Very big difference. We are being called forth to this.
yeah, yeah.
So it's just a perspective to consider um, as things get louder. And there are humans that have chosen to be vessels and channels for this coding so that we can support the raising of consciousness and the loudness that it is bringing through, so that you can simplify it,
Mm,
so that you can come into an easefulness with it.
mm,
Because I'll speak for myself, it's possible. I am living proof of it.
I'm with you.
Yes, living proof.
I'm with you, and I love that as well. Everything you speak speaks my language, because I'm always sharing that we're now going into the Aquarian age, which is a prophesized time. That's why, we are awakened at this time. That's why we came through with these gifts, had to have these experiences so that we could help move the collective and keep these energies and this vibration shift, this change in human consciousness and the change on earth, right, where we actually start to recognize, one, like we were saying, quantum physics, that we can create our reality. How do we actually live in embodied in presence and have more joy and happiness instead of being in survival systems, which human society is being so programmed through for so long. Work 9 to 5, you need to work, it's just patterns and systems that are all about survival.
Well, and it's
Even,
ancestral, it's lineage, it's
yeah,
not
it's,
just this timeline.
yeah.
And so what people can consider is that you're getting loudness and messages not just from your timeline. You're getting it from your lineage. You're getting it from your ancestors. And and that is, there's, it's so much to manage. So if you need support, there are advanced tools out there that can support it.
100%, 100%, 100%, right? It's timelines and ancestry and DNA and genetics and, let alone just the stuff that's going on in this present time, right? And it really is a beautiful time, though, for all of these people. As much as if you're in it, you don't feel like it's a beautiful thing. I tell you, if someone had said to me in the time that this is a
Yeah.
blessing in disguise and it's going to be magical when you come out of it, I probably would have punched him in the face. Like, to be honest, I would have been like, are you freaking crazy? This is not
Yeah.
comfortable, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
But now I look
I
back
was
and
borderline. Yeah, I was borderline psychosis. So
oh,
I get it. Like I get it, because it is not easy
no,
going through this. So
no. And anyone that says it is, and they're like, okay, oh, I have so many people say to me, oh, but you're so blessed. And, I was like, I had to go through a lot to get to here, I've chosen this, and I've been consistent. And what you see now is not just something that went like this. And I was just blessed with this beautiful, life and ability to do these things. It was a choice. But I feel really honored as well that we're here at this time, and everybody that's awakening. And as much as it's hard and it's difficult, I want to inspire people to have hope that, it does get easier, and that you're here to help on a greater cause, right? Changing generations and the way that society and earth will function in the future. And, it was something that messages that I got years ago, especially when we were in the pandemic, which, was actually something that was meant to happen, because all of anything that's a big collective thing changes the home system. Their inner system of safety gets shifted, and dynamics of masculine and feminine, but we won't go all into that right now. But there's a massive thing that happens in all of those massive world events over the last 100 years, has created significant shifts in consciousness and things that were suppressed coming forward and coming out. And the one thing I got was that we're about to have a massive nervous system upgrades within humanity. But they said to me, as much as some of us, like you and me, will start really have that embodied sense of our nervous system and being able to work with it, it will be generations. It's like my kids were already born with the nervous system of our society as it was, right? It's gonna take a couple of generations before we're gonna see really grounded collectively. But we're already bringing this forward to make it easier. And so that even my children, when they have kids, it may already be there, right? Like I might see that generation of children where they're actually living in thriving instead of surviving in fear, right? That we realize we can create a reality, that we feel empowered, that we're tuned into our body, our feelings, our sensations, and into life, and really realizing the interconnectedness. Like it is exciting times. And I'm
Yes.
cheering on every spiritual, every healer, every breathwork facilitator, every sound healer, anyone that's doing their piece towards this. And that's something why I really am trying to call forward that, for years, people like us were one woo woo, or it was not even proved by science, but it is now. I think it's really nice to, like, back then it was like, oh, it's a hobby, you'll never make money. And, people didn't value it. People are actually starting to say, wow, this stuff actually has like really potent influence and impact and changing the way people are moving through, right? Like instead of, I'm not saying don't go to a psychologist or a counselor. They have their purpose and they have their place. But I've had so many clients come to me and saying, and they sit in their head and just talk about the things, they never come back into the somatics of the body. And then they find that finding these tools and how to integrate it into their everyday life is like where all of a sudden these massive shifts happen, right? That they actually propel themselves forward. So for all of you people, either whether you're in it and you're in the awakening stage, whatever level you're at, whatever stage of the looping or the dark night of the soul, whether you feel the calling, like it's exciting times and you're part of the piece, the masterpiece towards making this greater humanity and this greater life and this beautiful earth to be actually like loved and honored, and I'm you can tell I'm excited about that, right? And I'm cheering you all on. And the biggest thing is I want to say there, you can have abundance and abundance in everything. Like there's beautiful sun. Like the more I felt, I guess, connected to my heart, it wasn't just about money, but it was like abundance of love and abundance of joy and abundance of beautiful experiences, abundance of connection to beautiful people like yourself, right? Abundance in, like, I felt so much gratitude in, like I said, the simplest things, like the sun's shining. I look out at the grass and the trees and I'm like, oh, aren't we blessed to be in this world, right? And but we can be also financially rewarded, but it's also deeply rewarding when you help others and you see the shifts, for every one person and that you help. It's not just them, it's their family. It's like, as I shifted, it helped my children. I see them putting some of this into their friends, and it just becomes this ongoing, beautiful ripple effect that energetically and physical keeps moving outwards, right? So it's an abundance of like heart fulfillment and joy that comes through this. So and I guess I see a lot of healers or people, as you said, we said in the trauma or the healing and the awakening, there's so much, but also, losing hope that they can actually be successful or create a life, because again, that's still survival. We're not taught to trust in this, the society still doesn't 100% back us, but you and me are backing them, you know, and your soul's backing them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's it's an honor to be a a support for this, a support for the raising of consciousness. But I will say, like, it has taken me many, many, many years to embrace that I'm a healer, that I'm a channel, that I'm an activator, because I didn't want to be. And
Mm,
so, speaking to those that don't want this,
mm,
it's it's not going to go away. And there's there is support out there to open your heart
mm.
to embracing what is meant for you,
Yeah.
if this calls
And I love that because I did want it. And when I finally died, I didn't want the trauma that came with it, the healing experiences and all the things, but I did love the idea of it, and my ego part of me, you know. And again, it's like feeling valued. It was, there was other things that came with that, right, that I had to work with. But then you're like, I love that. You're also saying, you know, for the people that don't want it, right? So there's so many people that do want it and struggling to create it, have one foot in, one foot out, and the ones that are like feeling like they're being propelled into it, and you're like, well, no, I'm trying to get out of it, you know. So again, it's like there's this both worlds, right? And if it's your soul's purpose, you know, it's gonna, like, I think for me at first, actually, I guess going through the experience itself, yeah, you know, I felt the nudges of my soul. I kind of felt the poking, and I was just not, until it just slammed me. And I guess that's the biggest thing, is that the more resistance we have to actually doing the thing, the harder this is going to get, because I was so resistant. So then it made the whole thing even more traumatic for me, because I was like, no, I didn't fucking ask for this. No, I didn't want this. No, I didn't, you know, like, as in the trauma or the divorce or the abuse or the no, 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 no. And you know, so I was still living in the poor me, the victim, the, you know, and which is then, you know, creating more trauma, right? We're keeping ourselves stuck in that. So yeah, it's hard, right? I don't think anyone's awakening is a bit
Yeah, yeah, and for those that don't want it, I hear you. I see
mm,
you. I feel you.
mm,
And um there's there's hope. There's, there's support.
yeah,
And so I would love to suggest that we do like a part two of this and speak to like the different modalities and the different tools and
mm,
the different treatments and what those have, manifested as and been channeled as to support
mhm,
those that need this work or
mhm.
that, you know, feel inspired,
Love
um,
it.
readiness,
Mm,
a
yeah.
resonance.
Yep, let's bring it embodied, right? Let's give them the actual, like, the some of the pieces, right? Because we've done a lot of talking and sharing and da da da.
Yeah.
It's like, here's part two. Let's do the thing now, right? Let's, anyone that's ready for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. I really, yeah, I'm up for that, definitely. And you and me, like I said, we're both, I would say, I like to say, powerhouse women in the industry of like sharing gifts and stuff like that, and both understand each other's path, but very unique in our own paths, right? And both very different in what we share as our gifts. And I think, like, this is something to know, that there's not one way, there's so many ways, and but there's usually um one, like for me, it's like my clients resonate and your clients resonate, right? And it's like um and that's where I kind of say to people, like, there is somebody out there that needs you, because you're part of that medicine, you're part of that energy and that work and that guidance and that team to work together, right? So together, you know, we're going to share very unique things, and yet it's going to be ideal for somebody one way or the other, right? Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
beautiful, love it.
yeah, it's been amazing sharing a space with you, and yeah,
Yes. All right, let's do it. We'll schedule that in. Hopefully we don't have all the troubles with our Zoom links and all the things. I just have to laugh at that stuff. I was like, oh gosh, this looks great because we changed it, but it's all good. Next time we'll be on, I'm going to add, like, call that in, that it's all just going to be like powerful and magnificent. And
it
I,
is this time around too.
yeah, yeah.
All in divine timing.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. All right, sweetheart. Well, I'll let you go because I know it's quite late there. It's early here because you're in, you know, the other side of the world, different energy. I'm like Tuesday morning at 10:10, and you'd be
Yeah,
like 10 past 7 or something like that
yeah,
on Monday
yeah,
night. So, you
yes, I
know,
know.
yeah, meeting both sides of the world, see, right? And we
Pretty
both
cool.
received, yeah, it is cool. We're so blessed, like how we can do this now and bring energy and show how, you know, we can do this. And that's actually like a good thing to remind people that, you know, like, this is energy. And you know, people say, oh, I don't understand how it all works, and I'm like, well, I can see you, and you're on the other side of the world, right? And we can speak to each other and we don't have a physical thing touching us, right? And I'm like, this is the same as energy. It's the same as the transmissions. It's the same as the coding, right? That it's all like out there in the ethers, right? So beautiful. All right, sweetheart. Well, we'll schedule a time and make some more magic happen.
Sounds good. It's been lovely. Talk to you soon.
All right, darling.
Bye.
Bye.